Welcome again, folks. It's Dr. J, and I am super excited about our conversation with leaders. These conversations have been going so well, and the more leaders I speak with, the more I'm realizing that leadership is influence. John Maxwell talks about it. Everything will rise and fall with leadership. And so, what makes me super excited today, because I get to speak to another great leader. And so before I say anything else and why we're having these conversations, I want to be sure that you understand the purpose of the conversation. The purpose of Cultivate and these conversations is to help leaders maximize their God-given potential, help individuals reach that potential, but most importantly, that they enhance and add value to the lives of others. So without saying anything else, I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm even more excited to introduce you to my guest, Mike. And Mike is coming from far away. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to tell you where, because he's going to tell us about him, where he's from. And so as we get started, Mike, I am so glad you're in studio with me today. I just can't tell you how excited it is to be speaking with someone like so far away. But more importantly, your leadership perspectives have been admired all over. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity to even learn from you today. So without further saying anything, Mike, welcome to our conversation with leaders. Let's hear from you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to hopefully sharing something that helps and inspires someone that's tuning in today.
Absolutely. So now, where are you coming in from? Because that's for me, it's like just amazing.
Yeah, I currently live up in Anchorage, Alaska, and it is absolutely gorgeous today. Summer is on its way.
Oh, wow. Alaska. Just the thought of it, right? So thank you again for being on the conversation. So we'll get started, because leadership for me is so important. And I get super excited about leadership, and I get passionate about leadership, because I realize the impact it has as a coach in my current position, talking with leaders. And then in our current societal condition, we have a problem, and we realize that people really need a platform. There's so much noise going around, and people need to hear from real leaders and hear real perspectives. So my question to you today, as we dig deep into this conversation, is why is leadership so important than ever today?
Yeah, so I spent 30 years in the military, and one of the key takeaways from that was that when people are in crisis, when people are afraid, that they really make bad choices, you know. And unfortunately, when people don't have direction, they default to fear, right? So if fear is the natural response to confusion, and people don't make good choices in their fear, then leadership becomes the only thing that can stand between those bad choices and moving forward, whether it be in their personal life or whether it be at work, or whether, no matter what they're doing, really leadership is the only thing that can provide that calm and that comfort that can help make that situation productive.
I love how you say that leadership, you align leadership with calm and choices. Can you dig a little deeper into that? Because I love that. And maybe someone out there may be thinking, hmm. So how will you just dig a little deeper into that for me?
Yeah, so when I was a leader I was in charge at Kadena Air Base in Japan, and I've been a single parent for 20 years, almost 21. My son will be 21 next year, or next month actually. And one morning I got him ready for school, and I was getting ready to go to work, and my son was like 8 years old, and at that time they're really developing themselves. So
Right.
he was doing everything he could to like really piss me off that morning, right? Like, for lack of better terms, he was pushing every button I have.
Oh,
And I only worked less than a mile away from home. So by the time I got to work, I'm still frustrated, upset. All of those emotions are still stirring. So literally, I just intuitively, I sat in my car and listened to some calm music for about 15 minutes before I got my composure and was able to walk into the building with a smile on my face.
Wow.
And after I set my stuff in my office, I went to get a cup of coffee, and I was passing an airman on the way to the coffee pot. And he looks at me, he says, "Chief, it is so great to see you in the morning. You always have the best smile on your face."
Whew.
And it was at that moment I realized that as the leader, I was setting the tone for everyone around me's day, right? Like, what if I had walked in that upset state, right, with a frown on my face, sending out all that negative energy? That airman's day was going to be very different, right? His interaction with me would have been very different. It would have been like when you're upset, your dog gets up and leaves the room, right? Like, people can feel that. And
Wow.
it's, as a leader, it's my job to make the work environment more relaxed, less tension, more welcoming. And I couldn't do that if I was upset, pissed off, and sending out all that negativity. So calm definitely is contagious, but also being upset, fearful, pissed off, those are all contagious too, right? So as the leader, you set the tone, and it's important to recognize that and make sure that you're setting the tone that you want.
Wow. I've heard many, many stories, Mike, but this one is different. I think this is a story that all leaders need to hear. Maybe you should send this story to Gallup, because Gallup talks so much about the elements of engagement. And one of it is about how leaders truly, truly know what's expected of them. And in that expectation, they have to do exactly what you do. So there's a total profoundness to that, because it can have the leadership can either break you or make you. And so that's powerful to hear. And so we know that even now, so when we think about that calm, and calm is what we need now more than ever. With the coronavirus going on, and just even without the virus, there's always been this sense of fear that goes on when the leader is not leading effectively. And in these conversations, leaders are driver of engagement, I say. Like, engagement is everything rise and forward engagement. To your point of that, what should leaders do today, right? Just even in the now, what are some things that you would recommend that leaders do?
Yeah. So the number one thing again is find your calm.
Mm.
Whatever it takes for you to be calm as a leader, you need to find that and really live into that. And I have another actual story from Kadena where this really made a big difference. We were getting ready for a big exercise. It was kind of a mobilization exercise, and I was new to the base, and I kind of wanted to see how their whole exercise portfolio played out, right? Like how the process worked or maybe didn't work. And so I pulled one of my airmen off the processing line and I subbed myself in, right? I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be an airman and we're going to see what this looks like, right? Well, as it turned out, I was the highest ranking person. They call them chalks. So it's a group of people on one airplane. It's called a chalk. So I was the highest ranking person on that chalk. So they put me in charge. Well, as things turned out, things were less than perfect. In fact, things were pretty bad. So we're like 12 and a half hours into this exercise in this chalk. They haven't given us any water. They haven't given us any food. No one's really talking to us. And as a leader, I knew that people were looking to me for how they should respond, right? Should they be upset? Should they be happy? So I did everything I could to just kind of really eye up and be the comedian and try to keep things light as possible and calm the herd as much as I could. Well, finally, the guy that was supposed to receive us, the guy that was supposed to come and sign for us and let us out of this 12 hours of jail, it seemed like, shows up and he is furious. And I could see from the time he got out of the car, I could like see the fire in his eyes. I could feel the negative energy. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. You are not coming to this building like that. Right? Like this is a kinder box, right? This is a box full of matches and you are about to throw a spark into it. The last thing in the world these people need is you coming in here like that. So I went out and I actually pulled him aside and confronted him in the parking lot. And I said, listen, you are not going in that building till you calm yourself down. I don't care what happened. I don't care how you got to where you are. You just need to settle down, relax, walk in, sign for us, get us out of here. And then after all of that happens, we'll talk, right? We'll figure this out. But between now and the time you sign for us, I need a smile on your face. I need you to be happy. And so he did. He was a true professional. He sucked it up. He did what he needed to do, got us signed out, everything, everybody left. And then we worked through everything. But I can't even imagine how different that scenario would have been had he not been able to gain his composure and get himself in check. You know, it would have been not pretty at all, I'm sure. So the second piece of that is be the example, right? You need to be willing to step up and show and demonstrate how you expect your people to react. So I couldn't very well go out and tell him to calm down if I was not calm myself,
Exactly.
right? I couldn't expect everybody else to be um, relaxed and somewhat lighthearted if I was not that way myself. People do not respect do as I say, not as I do. You will lose your leadership platform almost instantly and any credibility you had coming into it if you do things that you're telling your folks not to do. Uh, for example, wearing a mask. If you believe that wearing a mask is going to be effective in public, then you need to demonstrate that. And I don't care if you're going into the grocery store, or you're going into your place of work. People are always watching you. You never know who's going to see you wherever you're at. So as a family leader, right? I'm leading my kids through this thing. When I go to my parents' house, I wear my mask going to their house. I don't know if I'm going to bump into somebody. I don't know. All I know is that I can demonstrate for my kids what I expect them to do, right?
Yeah.
And then I shouldn't say the final thing, but I guess just to keep this in the rule of threes, the third thing leaders can really do right now is provide hope.
Ooh.
Right? The human race has been around a long time. We have seen a lot of challenges, and every time we have been able to overcome them, right? And we just got to keep reminding people of that. There's always hope. As long as we're creative and as long as we're still trying to solve problems, then we will solve problems. And this is nothing more than a problem that needs to be solved. So let's not get so emotional. Let's not get so into the detail of it, right? Let's just focus on solving the problem and then move on to whatever that next problem is going to be.
Wow, what a powerful way. But I want to be sure, and as you're, yeah, first of all, you are an excellent storyteller because I'm there and I'm seeing it happen. And I want to just say right now, because I didn't see it before, thank you so much for serving. I have a sweet spot for my veterans, so I even fall in love with you more when you said you serve. So thank you for serving. And to all our military personnel who may come across this, thank you for what you do and have done, and just use your leadership in such an exceptional way. Now, Mike, you did mention, so I tell you, didn't I say I was going to be learning from you? Because that's what I love about this. And I when I got the vision for these conversations, I said, God, what do you want from me? I'm just going to do it. And what I'm learning so far is that the leader's perspective is so crucial. What I've just learned from you, Mike, is just as I'm listening to you and I'm traveling with you through that story, I saw the leader's awareness. I saw a lot of that awareness. And you use some words that kind of like talk about how the leader needs to show up, right? Because when the leaders show up, like you've just given that story, is that the leader give people hope to know that they're there, that they're present, that they're involved in the process. And I think from your point, it shows that leader's awareness is going to drive people to the next level, whichever that leader's awareness is at. But I also learned from you clarity. Did I get that from you, that there has to be some clarity, there has to be some direction in which we want to go to, there has to be a beginning and an end. And I learned from you about hope. Now I really want to talk about hope, because some people say hope, is not a strategy. John Maxwell says
Yeah.
hope. Yeah, they say hope also is it's a virtue. Can you just define hope, especially now where people are losing hope?
Yeah. And I don't know if I disagree or agree with that statement. I can say this though. If hope is not a strategy, then it needs to be part of your strategy, right? So hope has to be there. Napoleon said that leaders are dealers in hope, right? Like that's what they did. It was Napoleon that discovered that if he gave people little pieces of cloth, colored cloth, ribbons, that they would be motivated by that, right? That would give them hope to move forward, right? And continue on with right. So probably the best thing I can do is give you an example. One of the early in my career, I didn't start out as a good leader. In fact, I was more like the jerk in charge, right? Like I was a really bad leader. I was terrible. I was the true blue, do as I say, not as I do. You know, it's going to be this period dot, my way or the highway kind of guy. You know, the Air Force didn't issue kids. I don't want to hear about them. I was just not I was not a good leader at all. Um, Jerk in charge is probably a soft title for what I was. But then somebody stepped into my life and they confronted me on that. And it just so happened this person was a mentor of mine and somebody I respected greatly. So when he basically told me that I was failing, I took that to heart and I really had to sit down and think about what was going on. And the reality was, as the leader, um, I had created this very situation that I said I was trying to solve. Right? We were working 12 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week. We would get one thing fixed and another thing would break, and I was trying to be involved in every decision that had to be made, and I was creating the very circumstances that were creating all of the stress and frustration in my life. So that one little shift in awareness really helped me discover leadership development. I started reading books, I started studying, all of these things started happening where all of a sudden I started developing my leadership skills, and my career just spun around like
Hmm.
totally in a different direction. And from that point on, I became the fix it guy for our career field. They would move me around from broken program to broken program to help fix and recover those programs. And one of those programs was at Travis Air Force Base. And when I got there, it was pretty bad. The people were pretty defeated, right? Like they just failed a major inspection. Their boss, the guy they looked up to and respected, got fired. Um, and really, the one thing that I could give them was hope. Right? That was, as a leader, that was the one thing I could give them. The future could get better, right? We don't need to live like this forever. We we can do better. I mean, there's great, as Les Brown would say, there's greatness in you. I can see it. We just got to do things a different way. And so that's what we did. And within 12 months, we were program of the year, right? I mean, it just takes that little bit of hope to get people started moving on a different path. And from there, they can build and build and build until now everybody's careers are taking off.
So you must be the brave heart for them, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I picked up on some skills, some tools. You know, when I was a young leader, I thought I had one tool in my toolbox. It was a hammer, and I thought every situation was a nail, right? And through that leadership journey, that discovery, I learned that there's a lot of different situations out there, and there's a lot of tools as leaders we can apply. And as a leader, you owe it to your people to learn as many of those tools as you can so that you can be very versatile in how you apply tools to situations.
Absolutely. What you know what? Thank you. Thank you for those thoughts. And what came to mind is what I'm telling leaders, like this time, it's the opportune moment. I believe leadership is a legacy. Engagement is a
Mhm.
legacy. When you put engagement with leadership, I think you can have a revolution. And I strongly believe now, what with all of what's happening in our society today, that the leader, I think every leader is in their best position to create a legacy for people. Because just imagine that 30 years from now, Mike, you and I, right? We're older, everybody else, but we can remember, or a person, a young person in the workplace 30 years from now, I think people will remember what happened to them at work during COVID-19. Because whatever is happening to them at work or in their relationship with their leaders, coaches, mentors, they're taking that home and they're
Right.
applying that. This whole time and crisis is like we're applying everything we hear, which is why I'm so excited that you're on this, because 30 years from now, we listen to this, we'll say, he said it would happen. You did say, Mike, though, that there are things that people should do and can do. And I know that you're a reader, you probably have a ton of books. I see so much behind you going on. So I want to ask you, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a scripture, maybe it's a quote that you want to share, so that the listeners will take from this and can apply. What would that be, or those be?
Well, during this time of kind of self discovery as well as leadership discovery, I focused on really watching good leaders, or in some cases, great leaders, people I aspired to be like, and trying to figure out what they were doing that was different than everybody else. And prior to retiring, I was working at the Pentagon, and one morning I got up and I was working out, and I had some chest pain, which for me wasn't that big of a deal. That happens quite a bit. It's happened for a long time, but on this one particular day, I got to work at the Pentagon, and it was still going on, and that was a bit unusual, right? So I decided to go down to the clinic and get checked out, and they put tests and did all of this stuff to me and whatever, like, but they couldn't figure out what was going on. And so I sat down and I thought, all right, Lord, if this is it, what unfinished business do I have? Well, at that moment, this inspired thought came to me that my son was getting ready to graduate and he had thoughts of going into the military as an officer. And I was like, okay, well, what kind of officer is he going to be? And if I could share something with him that would help him be a better officer, what would that look like? So I just sat down and I talked to my computer for 5 days and just shared thoughts, thinking that I was just going to leave him with this either audio record or some kind of written record of my thoughts. And really what ended up coming out is what is now a book. It's called Lead Bold, Lead Strong, Lead Well. And these are just 9 proven leadership secrets that I discovered that I really wanted to leave for my son, but I really think would benefit any leader at any level, regardless of what it is they're trying to lead. For example, one of the chapters in there talks about people matter. And one of the things that I witnessed during my time in the military is during times of crisis, during times of budget cuts, like most businesses are cutting back right now, the very first thing that they want to do is cut education, right? Because that's an easy kill. Um, that is absolutely the worst thing they could do. Because what ends up happening is they end up with a smaller workforce that's less educated than the workforce they had before. So when the tide changes, right, when the tide starts to rise and they're starting to bring new people on, they don't have the experience, they don't have the training, they don't have any of the development they need to be able to launch into those new opportunities. So my recommendation is that when these things happen and you start to slim down your workforce, you need to heavily invest in the people that you retain, so that when things shift, when the direction changes, those people are ready to bring on the new hires and get them more to where they need to go faster, right? To accelerate that growth. The other book I would recommend, it's called The Heart of a Leader by Ken Blanchard. There's a lot of books that I've read. This book actually sat on my desk for many, many years. And this is a book that I referenced almost every day, if not every day. And really all it is a book of quotes from from great leaders. And Ken Blanchard's thoughts on those quotes. And as a leader, what I would do is every Monday I'd go in, have a cup of coffee, I'd read a quote, I'd read his thoughts, and then I just kind of look at things throughout the week through the lens of that quote and through his thoughts, and kind of think through, do I think the same as him, or is there a different way to look at this, right? And this is the book that really taught me how to think as a leader,
Mm.
because I heard Roddy Galbraith, my speaking coach, say on a call once, choice is a function of awareness, right? We can only choose from the options that we're aware of. So if you think, there's a black option and there's a white option, then that's all the options there are. But there's always this third, fourth, and fifth option that are probably out there that we're just not aware of. So as a leader, one of the best questions we can ask is, what are we missing? What's
Wow.
that option we're just not aware of? And when we start asking those questions, you'd be amazed at the answers that come back.
Wow. I want you to speak more. This is so good. Oh my goodness. I just, this is why I love what I'm doing here, because I just want to glean from you just to keep going, like, part 2 of Mike Lightner. So, thank you for sharing those phenomenal thoughts, because I just truly believe that leaders, the leaders that we will get out of this situation, those are the leaders that's really, they're going to change the world, and they're going to take us in a total different direction. And like John Maxwell is saying, when you're leading, if no one is following, you're just taking a walk. So to your point with educating leaders, we'll just have to start finding a field of leaders who are filled with dreams, right? Because those dreams are right there within the dreamers. So, Mike, I want people to know. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just add one thing. If we look at the Great Depression, for example, I mean, that was a big shift in American history. More millionaires were created out of the Great Depression than any other time in history. I honestly think coming out of this COVID thing that we have an option to actually surpass that.
Wow. I believe you. I mean, I could just, and I'm in agreement with you. I could actually see that happening, because now with the total change to the world of technology, and just people are doing more than they would ever do. Earlier today, when I did my Put Your Dreams to the Test Saturdays with Sharon, I shared a lot, so much about, owning the dream and clarifying the dream, and just really putting all of that into perspective. So I want people to know where they can find you, know more about your book, about your company. So where can we get that information?
Yeah, so the name of my company is Dare to Dream Leadership Development, and you can find us at the number 2 dleadership.com. And if you go there, you can also access my books. There'll be a link there that says my books. Click on that; it'll take you to my Amazon author page, and you'll be able to see all my books from there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, this is just a game changer right here. I mean, like, this is one of those shows that I'll truly, truly, and I want you to know, Mike, that you got more thoughts, because I know I want more, but definitely I'd love to have you back on to share your perspectives. And for those of you who are listening, Mike, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for serving, thank you for sharing. Excellent storyteller, but most importantly, as a leader, thank you for just your leadership perspectives and how you have been leading folks to success. And for those that are on, folks, my name is Sharon Johnson. I am the CEO of Communicate. Communicate, Comtivate, actually means communicate with the number 2, motivate. So communicate to motivate. All of this that you've seen and you can watch on the Comtivate Online Academy. I will post it, Mike will have it, but certainly I want to thank you for listening to it, whoever you are, and remember that leadership is everything, everything rise and fall with leadership. Mike, I'm going to give you the last word here. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on your show. I definitely appreciate it. Hopefully, there's something we shared here today that helps someone, right? I mean, that's probably the number one thing any of us could do as leaders is just step in and help someone. So help someone where you're at.
Awesome, awesome. And why we do that? Because together we are stronger. Stay beautiful, stay fabulous, stay motivated, folks. And I thank you so much for joining us. And we'll catch you on the next show.